All right, y'all. So I've been on my investigative reporting about 2K. One of my biggest complaints in 2K23 is the inconsistencies from game to game. So after doing some digging, we find out more information as to why you guys experience so many inconsistencies on 2K23. We finna get right into it. Y'all be sure to drop a like and drop a sub if you can. Now, we all know from previous experience playing 2K that latency has always been a problem in the game. For years now, players in the 2K community have been calling for 2K to get better servers. Even when presented with the idea of 2K introducing crossplay, most players say, well, 2K will have to fix their servers because they could barely handle the respective platforms. Lord knows what a mess it'll be if they try to introduce crossplay. And after doing a little digging as to why we experience these inconsistencies and super high latencies at different times, I would like to reference this post that I found on Reddit. The homie Trey5Stacks says, I'm looking for a discussion with Mike or any dev or operations engineer from the 2K/Take-Two for this thread if possible. He goes on to say, I have Google Fiber, low latency TV, open NAT. He's running on a Cat 6 and normally gets around a 10 to 17 ping on most games. But for some reason, when we play 2K, we get no idea of what ping we actually playing on. The higher the ping, the higher the latency. The lower the ping, the better the latency. He goes on to say when he loads into the rec or pro-am games, his player feels different from game to game. In parentheses, he says, even if I have all boosts. And when I shoot, my cues do not stay consistent. He says this has been an issue all year. And he goes on to ask the 2K devs, how do you guys suggest we improve our experience to have more consistency? Now, I'm sure there's a lot of problems that you guys are going through as well, but what I found most interesting is this response from Raktar. Raktar says there appears to be 3 general latency toggles for online modes. You have the low latency, mid latency, and high latency. And to help you guys get a better understanding, as I referenced before, higher pings mean higher latency, lower pings means you guys get a better connection. Raktar says, if I had to guess, low latency is around 50 to 80 ms, mid latency about 80 to 110, and high latency is anywhere between 110 and 150 pings. And here's a quick tip to figure out what type of latency you're working with. He says you can tell which latency you're in by bringing up the scoreboard and hitting up and down on the D-pad to highlight players. When you do this, check your response time between the switch of each individual player, and that'll basically tell you the response time that you're gonna receive in the game. Because 2K doesn't provide us with ping information, we won't get the actual ping to find out whether we're on high latency servers or low latency servers. Raktar says is pretty much the only way to gauge what type of ping you're working with. He mentions that 2K23 works on Amazon servers, and he goes on to say Amazon Cloud is metered. You pay for everything. Each instance you spin up, each data transferred, each gigabyte stored. This means that Take-Two, the online infrastructure, is a cost to them. But most players in 2K say, hey, don't they make millions of dollars in microtransactions each year? But he basically says if there's an expensive option to upgrade the Amazon service provided or a less expensive option for servers to choose from, what do you think 2K will do? He says, imagine there's a set of parameters in the code base that provides a smoother experience, a higher update rate, higher bandwidth use, but it increases 2K server costs by up to 3 times. He says because it updates faster, that probably means less players per server, and that also means more servers or instances. And more bandwidth equals more costs. So let's assume those costs are $5 million a year. If a bad configuration that players are already used to is $5 million in costs, and a good configuration that players love is $15 million a year, then unfortunately it makes sense for Take-Two as a publisher to choose the worst experience and pocket the rest of the money. What he's basically saying is that no company is just gonna give up 10 million. But what 2K does best is make sure there is no alternative option. This allows them to keep their overhead costs well below standard. He goes on to say there's no real way to apply pressure here here. The 2K servers are bad because they are a cost to 2K. And no matter how profitable NBA 2K is, they always have an incentive to maximize profit. So that means choosing the cheaper server backend implementation. Now, the best way to find out where a company is headed is to follow the money. And considering the idea that I just made a video earlier this week talking about the bonuses that the Take-Two CEO Zelnick receives when you guys make a ton of microtransactions, and also considering the experience that us gamers have been having with super high latency, and the common theme from 2K players and the 2K community is, come on 2K, fix your servers, please. Going through that for years, by the way. Also considering that basketball sports gaming is an extremely highly profitable business to be in, what leaves me most curious is why haven't we seen any level of competition? And for those that don't know, the only competition that was even close to 2K was NBA Live. Brian Mazik from Forbes.com reported a couple years ago that NBA Live wanted to release a free-to-play game because they have been struggling with their most recent releases. So NBA Live hit the drawing board, created a new game, but made it free to play. Right before the release of that free-to-play game, from what Brian Mazik reported, the actual NBA reached out to NBA Live saying that you cannot, I repeat, cannot release that free-to-play game because it's gonna affect the sales of NBA 2K games. And one other key note that Brian Mazik reported on was that soon after, the EA team that creates NBA Live was completely disbanded. This definitely helps spark curiosity because in almost any business, if investors see the black and white, the numbers that are extremely profitable and should entice most investors to consider putting their money in this particular business, NBA 2K has led the way in proving that online sports gaming can be extremely profitable. What is 2K doing in the background to prevent any competition from coming up the ranks to help consumers have an alternative option for online basketball gaming? That's just some food for thought for you guys. If you guys have thoughts or ideas to remedy the current state of NBA 2K23, y'all sound off in the comment section below. And if you guys are looking for players to run with on 2K23, come on out and join our Discord. The link for Discord will be in the description. And before we wrap this video up, I would like to mention that we do have a second channel, and you guys can help me get that second channel up off the ground. We're gonna be playing a ton of different games, and we will also be going live on our second channel. The link for the second channel will be in the description below. Come through and drop a sub if you can. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all be sure to keep it locked right here at AllCity Live TV, because we got a bunch more NBA 2K23 news, information, and updates coming your way. Drop a like, drop a sub on your way out. I'll catch you guys on the next video or live stream. Easy, y'all.